All right, friends, so you know the quarterback situation heading into this preseason, everybody watching close to see who's actually taking control of that room. Well, this past week, one of them threw 2 interceptions, and Steelers Twitter's been going off ever since, acting like the whole thing is pretty much decided at this point. But I went through the All-22 on this game, and there's something on that tape that's got me seeing this a lot differently than what everybody's saying online right now. So stick around because I'm going to walk you through exactly what I saw and why I think this competition heading into Buffalo was more interesting than people realize. Hello, Steelers fans. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
So let me get into it, because this is exactly what I was talking about a second ago. When I broke down this tape, the guy who really stood out to me wasn't Howard at all. It was Drew Allar. And look, I know the box score from this game wasn't as clean as week 1, but honestly, I think the throws he made in this game were actually more impressive than what we saw against the Packers. There's this one play, second preseason game, where he rolls out to his left, he's got a defender right in his face, and he still manages to flip the ball down the field between 2 guys to Lake McCree. I mean, that's not a throw you coach up, that's just pure arm talent and instinct, and that wasn't even the only one. Late in the fourth quarter, off his back foot, 30 yards down the field, he drops a back shoulder ball in perfectly. If the Steelers are ever in a spot where they're looking at a rookie quarterback in round 1 down the line, that's the kind of throw they'd be hoping that guy could make. Drew Allar is already doing it. And honestly, my favorite throw from him wasn't even one of the flashy ones. It was during that 2-minute drill, second down, pressure coming off one side, and instead of panicking, he just calmly drifts away from it, resets his feet, and drops a perfect layered ball into a tight window over a linebacker to move the chains. That's the stuff that actually translates to being a real starter in this league, making the right read under duress instead of just making a highlight reel throw. And I'll be honest with you, the stat line doesn't even tell the full story here, because there were, 5 to 7 drops in this game from his receivers? So if anything, the tape looks even better for him once you account for that. So here's where I land on this. I genuinely think Drew Allar has done enough at this point to earn a real shot down the road at being this team's starting quarterback. Now, obviously, I'm not in the building. I don't know what's happening behind closed doors with the scout team reps this year, but based on what I'm seeing on tape, I don't see a reason not to give this kid a real runway. And that actually leads me into something I've been thinking about heading into next week. I think Drew Allar should be getting the start against Buffalo, and I think Will Howard should be coming in for the second half. If he goes out there and has another strong showing, and he's checking the boxes behind the scenes with how he's operating with the scout team, I really don't see why the Steelers wouldn't just go all in on him being the guy moving forward. They've been searching for a young answer at that position for a long time, and I'd rather bet on the talent they've already got in the building than go draft another rookie and hope he turns into what Drew Allar already looks like right now. Now, on the flip side of that quarterback room, obviously we got to address Will Howard, because he's getting absolutely hammered on social media right now after this 2-interception performance. And look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend it was a good week for him. It wasn't. But I don't think it's as simple as everybody's making it out to be either. If you actually go back and look at the throw he had in week 1, this real ill-advised floater over the middle when he got pressured, that one to me was actually worse than either of the picks he threw in this game. That one never got intercepted, so it didn't get the attention, but from a decision-making standpoint, that was the one that worried me the most.
Now, for these 2 picks against the Jets, on the first one, yeah, I think he locked onto his read too early. He should have seen that safety rotating, he should have clocked the pass off with the slot corner, and he probably needed to just pull it down and move on. That one's on him, for sure. But the second one is where it gets interesting, and this is the part of the tape that I think everybody's missing. Roman Wilson is running a crossing route there, and it's man coverage, which means the #1 rule for a receiver in that situation is you flatten that route out, you don't drift up the field. But that's exactly what he does. He drifts, and that gives the corner the angle to undercut it. When you actually watch the throw itself from the end zone camera, Will Howard puts that ball right on Roman Wilson's face mask. It's not a bad throw location-wise. It's the drifting that turns a tight window into an easy pick. And I know people are going to say, well, even if he flattens the route, the ball's still behind him, but that's not really how it works, because if Roman Wilson runs a different route, Will Howard's reading a completely different picture and probably throws it to a completely different spot on the field. So the route running is really what turns this into a turnover instead of maybe a pass breakup at worst. Now, I'm not saying this to be some kind of Will Howard defender because honestly, I still think if they're keeping 3 quarterbacks on this roster, he's probably the odd man out. There's just too much sitting on the shelf right now with young talent like Drew Allar pushing for reps. But I do think it's fair to point out that he's not the only reason these turnovers happened. And speaking of Roman Wilson, I think this is something we genuinely need to keep an eye on going forward. He's had a really strong camp so far. He's actually been getting first-team reps with Michael Pittman Jr. dealing with a slow start, but none of that is showing up in these preseason games yet. A couple catches here and there, and then these sloppy routes that are directly leading to turnovers for his quarterback. That kind of detail issue is not going to fly once Aaron Rodgers is under center for this team in Week 1. And if this becomes a pattern as the season rolls on, I think you're going to start seeing Jeremy Bernard work his way into more and more first-team reps. Now, is Jeremy Bernard fully ready for that kind of jump right now? Doesn't really look like it based on what I've seen. It looks like he's still working through picking up the offense. But if Roman Wilson keeps having these lapses, that door is going to open for him whether he's fully ready or not. So right now, I'd still call that receiver 3 spot a legitimate question mark heading into the season. All right, shifting over to the offensive line for a second because there were a couple of things there that stood out to me too. Troy Fautanu had a really nice bounce-back game after struggling a bit in Week 1 against the Packers. There was one rep where he kind of whiffed on a block, but outside of that, I thought he protected well on the left side and looked solid in the run game too. And then, at right guard, I continue to think Brock Hoffman is outplaying Spencer Anderson. Now, Spencer Anderson is still technically the starter there and still getting those first-team reps, but based on what I'm seeing, Brock Hoffman has done enough through 2 weeks to be in real contention for that job before this preseason wraps up. Now, flipping over to defense, I got to give some credit to Patrick Graham because the amount of creativity he showed with these blitz packages and disguised fronts was honestly one of the more fun things to watch on this tape. He really dug into the bag with some of these third-down looks, and it created a great one-on-one opportunity for Nick Herbig at one point. And Aaron Glenn did the same thing on the other side of the ball, rotating coverages, bringing pressure, not letting these young quarterbacks get comfortable with vanilla looks. Honestly, I think that's exactly what these young guys need right now because it's forcing them to process real NFL disguises instead of just picking apart a simple zone look. Now, individually on that defensive front, I really liked what I saw from Keeanu Benton. He looks so much more comfortable now that they've moved him off the nose and out to the 3 and 4 eye spots. He's beating blocks, he's getting into the backfield, and he's not eating double teams the way he was when he was lined up at one tech. It's just a much better fit for what he does well. And then, man, Yahya Black, this guy is an absolute problem out there. There's a play where Cade Klubnik rolls out and Yahya Black is literally chasing him step for step with Peyton Wilson, who's one of the fastest players on this whole roster. A nose tackle has no business being in that foot race, but that's the kind of motor this guy plays with. And when you pair that energy with Cameron Hayward on one side and Derek Harmon on the other in these base looks, that front is going to be a real handful for people this year.
Now, not everything was positive on that side of the ball, though. I thought Jamel Dean had a rough go of it in man coverage this game, got beat a couple times on the very first drive, and it wasn't pretty. I'm hoping that's just a one-game thing for him because he's coming off arguably the best year of his career, and the last thing you want is for him to have some kind of major regression the moment he gets to Pittsburgh. And before I wrap this up, one more thing worth mentioning. Keep an eye on Joey Porter Jr. news, because he posted a video of himself getting introduced during a night game last season with an hourglass emoji in the caption, and people are already speculating that could mean a contract extension is coming soon. So that's really where I'm at after going through this one closely. Quarterback room's more interesting than the noise online is making it sound, receiver depth is worth watching, and this defense is starting to show some real teeth. I'll be back with more once we get into Buffalo week. Until then, here we go, Steelers!